Call the East Cocalico Township Supervisor meeting for Thursday, February 7th. Order, please rise and pledge the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like you to please use your cell phones if you have them. First order of business with, I guess, happiness and regret. Like Joan and her husband, please come forward together. Joan has served the East Cocalico Township since 1983 as our tax collector. That's wonderful. And through the years, she's bonded with many of our citizens, and we as Board of Supervisors would like to recognize her and her assistant, her husband, for all the service they've done to the township. So at this meeting, we'd like to thank them very much. That's commendable. Now wait, I think she wants to be on the Thank you, Joan. Oops. Thank you, Joan. Thank you. Approval of last past meeting minutes for January 24th. Any additions or corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion carried. Thank you. Police Department. Chief.
I will give my full report at the next meeting. Two things. I spoke to Scott and I had a right-to-know request that I responded to. I know Scott is the right-to-know officer for the township. I didn't know if it would be something that you would want to do to make me the assistant right-to-know officer for the police department. That way I don't have to bother Scott with things, or if you want to just keep it as is. It's just a thought to put out there to think about. I don't know if that's a normal thing to do in reference to, assistant right to know.
When we get into legal questions, we just fire to the solicitor, so that's been my MO.
So maybe we want to look into that at some point or see if that's something we want to get.
Contact counsel, Chris.
Yes, no, it's not so much as time. You can do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm saying, I'm not an expert on right to know. When I get into a mine, you go to the township solicitor and get him to give an answer when you don't know you're in a legal gray area.
Well, I think from a police standpoint, I think there's a little more gray area involved than there would be with the township because of, so yeah, I think.
We'll make that in the next agenda.
And the only other thing is I would request that we put the old Crown Victoria and the old Chevy Impala on municipal bids. They're sitting out in the back lot. That's
Looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. Zoning officer.
Yes, I'll also give my full report at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Roadmaster.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
For the month of December and January, we trenched the electric line to the Woody Waste Gate. Everything works. We will look at addressing the beautification around it when it's time to grow grass. We scraped a few of the road edges that we've been having water issues. contacted a property owner along Denver Road that was formerly the Ultra Car business. He has a clogged driveway pipe, which is pushing water onto the road. I met with the turnpike along Denver Road. When we walked along the properties, all the turnpike's piping looks good. We did notice springs coming up on 2 of those properties, which is the problem with all the water on Denver Road. The turnpike did reach out to, I think, Brentwood Becker Engineering to discuss MS4 projects in the future that they'd like to do with us. The crew cracked sealed Hickory Ridge, Hillside Acres, and Morganshire developments. We did have a problem with our heated hose line, to which we ordered a new one. We got the new one in, put it on the machine. Everything seemed to run well at startup, but then when we got out to do the road, we found it was leaking oil. So we basically shut the machine down, called US Municipal. They're the ones that supplied the hose. They recommended we don't try and fix it. They will send us a brand new one. So we're waiting on a new hose to finish off our crack sealing for the year. We chipped up a few trees from storm events that happened throughout the year. We basically just pushed the trees to the edge of the road for the time being, and then we were going to clean them up when we start tree trimming. We cleaned those up. The crew also pulled out a tree in front of the bridge along Cocalico Creek Road. We hauled that one away. They assisted the Water Authority along Kurtz Road for a water main break. We zipped the road up for them. Christmas trees, roughly we chipped 225 Christmas trees. We're down a little bit. Usually we average 250 to 300. We will be taking the remaining Christmas trees out here, chipping them up and removing the gate the next couple of weeks. We picked up the 2018 Dodge Dump. We had the radio installed in it, got everything the way we want the truck. This winter so far we've had 12 cindering events, 3 plowing events, plus 1 flooding event. We've had hauled in 469 tons of salt. 188 of those tons were actually to fill the bins because our bin was empty. We've hauled 85 tons to Adamstown. Right now, with the weather the way it is, we've been busy just potholes, fixing signs, mapping signs on the CS data inventory, and repairing equipment. And that's all I have.
Any questions of Chris? Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. List of bills.
Okay, you have a list of bills as follows: a total general fund of $30,172.26, and a total state fund of $9,288.82. Questions and/or comments?
I make a motion to bill be paid as presented.
I will second same.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning.
Mr. Lee here today.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, the first item on the land planning agenda is garden spot frame and alignment, and obviously there are representatives here from Barry with garden spot and Todd Schill with Pioneer Management. The brief background, I guess, to bring you up to speed on where we are is, the last time they were before you was probably around February or sometime around there, where there was issues related to adjusting the curb line frontage improvements and resolving utility conflicts. Those have all subsequently been resolved. They've secured the PennDOT permit for those revised frontage improvements satisfactory to the township and PennDOT. They also, in the same time, readjust their site layout to value engineer certain things, shift the building back, reconfigure some of the stormwater, and as a result, resubmitted updated plans to us and the Conservation District to amend their prior NPDS permit and obtain acknowledgement from the township as far as any remaining items there. We've also established and confirmed the amount of required financial security. So Really, the project was previously conditionally approved. The only unique aspect here is there was a little hesitation at that point, reevaluation of site layout, and now, today, we would really re-acknowledge that approval, also acknowledge the required amount of the financial security, and then authorize the required documents to be signed when they come in completed by the applicant. So I don't know if Todd or Barry wants to highlight anything from their end, or...
Sure. Good morning. I'm Bob Show for Pioneer. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on the project in regards to what we changed and how we got to where we're on now, but essentially, we're ready to record the plans other than just house cleaning items, various agreements, signing the plans, posting the financial securities. I do want to publicly say that Garden Spot and our office were very appreciative of Mr. Lee and Mr. Russell in regards to how they handled and managed this project along with us throughout the process. There were quite a bit of hurdles to overcome. And it did take some time, but we're finally here, and I think everyone's ready to put a shovel in the ground, so thank you very much.
Thank you for that presentation, we appreciate it.
Yeah, if I could, I'm Barry Simpson, President of Garden Spot Frame. Again, I just want to thank the township for all your help. We are not land developers, we're truck mechanics, and you guys have helped us every step of the way. Scott's been a great help, Fred's been a great resource, and we're just 2 months shy of 4 years from when we started this, but we're finally there, and thank you all you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry. I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
A couple of quick questions.
Yep.
What's your target date for actually breaking ground and actually?
We're hoping March or April we
Okay.
can start, and then our contract is a 300-day build.
Okay,
So hopefully this time next year we're in, that's what we're hoping.
okay, great. Is there anything else we can do to help you on your end? Anything at all?
No. The only thing that I was advised by the bank was, and Todd's going to help us with this, is to try to make sure that we get our requests to have the letter of credit reduced, get those submissions to you guys timely. But that's more on our end than on your end. So that when the money shifts from one bucket to another, they want to reduce that letter. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
so we'll look to Todd for that.
I'll correct the record, there is one more thing the township can do to help them. You are interested in being our
Oh,
first
yeah.
applicant for LERTA.
Alert, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then one other point of order is, we have a strategic plan in place for 2019 and going forward, just so you're aware of it. Part of that was assigning one supervisor as a liaison to every single project,
Okay.
okay? So we have to make a decision, and we'll let you know, and Brett will have to let you know that also, and Tony. Going forward, we're assigning one supervisor to every single project, so that there's a direct line of communication for facilitating anything you might need or questions you might have that we might be able to answer right away.
Well, thank you.
So you'll be getting that soon,
Okay.
okay?
We can pray for Sonny's cause.
I don't know, I still see a lot of fields. Thank you.
No, thank you. Vice Mayor. Okay, Scott.
All right.
Brent, sorry, Brent.
We're ready to proceed with the motion. The first motion would be to re-acknowledge conditional approval of the Garden Spot Frame Alignment Preliminary Final Land Development Plan as previously granted on June 25th, 2018, conditioned upon the applicant addressing remaining outstanding items outlined in the Becker Engineering Review Letter dated January 22nd, 2019, to the satisfaction of the township engineer, township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Next would be a motion to authorize the board of supervisors to sign the updated stormwater maintenance and easement agreement when executed by the applicant submitted to the township in a form acceptable to the township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion would be to acknowledge the required amount of financial security to be established with the township in the amount of $1,145,977.22 per the approved cost opinion prepared by Pioneer Management dated February 4th, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the improvement guarantee agreement and accompanying financial security when executed by the applicant submitted to the township in a form acceptable to the township solicitor and along with the required accompanying financial security in the amount of $1,125,977.22.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. I'll second it. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And the final motion would be to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the garden spot frame and alignment preliminary final land development plan when appropriately signed by the applicant and presented to the township following satisfaction of outstanding conditions.
And I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, and motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. I'm looking forward to cutting the ribbon.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is presidential cabinets, sketch plan, and waiver modification submissions. Dave Meese is here from Dean & Sons. The site is on 241 Loush Road, served by on-lot water, on-lot sewer. The interest from the applicant is to formally establish the cabinet shop as a business on the property while also having the dwelling there. They previously, so there would be two uses initially, which is deemed a land development by just those facts and then the establishment of the business. They attended a zoning hearing, obtained certain approvals from the zoning hearing board related to the project, and now really the interest of the applicant was to clarify requirements moving forward with respect to land development to make sure they understood the costs so they could evaluate whether or how to proceed with the project. And obviously, most of those costs would be involved with any frontage improvements or improvements along Loush Road related to that. So the recommendations through discussions with Dave and was to try to flush these issues out at the sketch plan stage before time is spent designing things that aren't going to satisfy the township, or designing things that are above and beyond what would satisfy the township. So, with that said, we can get into the specific waivers. Maybe Dave wants to give a little overview and clarify certain things relative to the project.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Dave. Yeah, so appreciate the introduction there. As he said, Loush Road is right here. It's right in the middle of the 222 bridge and Trost Road over there near the turnpike, so it's kind of right in the middle of the block there, 5.3 acres. As it exists today, you have a house and a shop that was actually, it used to be a barn or something, I guess, that he converted recently. Tony's a little bit more versed in that than I am, but essentially what he wants to do now is just provide himself some more permanent parking. Right now it's just some gravel down there. So he really wants to add parking there. He's toying with possibly adding to the shop, but that's more of a long range kind of thing. He's not really sure if he's going to pull the trigger or not just yet. But as Brent said, you know, looking at the land development requirements, the first thing that jumps out is road frontage improvements that would be required, could be required. And so, you know, we thought we better get a good sense of that before we really plunged into this. And that's kind of the gist of most of the waiver requests are related to the improvements in the existing street. So I do have 7 waiver requests, and I can go down those individually, or does anybody have any questions so far? Okay.
Yeah. All these waivers were discussed at the planning commission recently and recommended for either approval as a waiver or a deferral. There were discussions with Scott and myself and Dave over certain improvements and which ones may be appropriate for deferral based on specifics here. Proximity to other similar improvements, nature of Loush Road at this point, and what Scott's identified as future goals along that roadway. So if you want, we can go through each one individually. The first waiver modification is very simple, related to processing of the plan, and at this scale of a project and nature of a project, there's no need to have multiple plan submissions. So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194.7C3 and section 194.9A1 of subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirements for submission of a preliminary plan to allow the applicant to submit the project for review as a combined preliminary final plan meeting the requirements of both.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Since the next few relate to the frontage improvements, maybe we can talk about them all together and then piece them apart or take them individually for consideration. Typical requirement along industrial zone or commercial zone would be to widen roadway to 18 feet from center line, install curb and install sidewalk. And Scott can chime in, but I think based on the discussions of the planning commission and prior to that, the consideration just on the limited portion that's involved here, making those improvements at this point in time did not seem appropriate. And deferral of the widening, deferral of the curb, and deferral of the sidewalk were all discussed. So
That's consistent with what you've already done in the past with Henderson. You defer sidewalk and curb along Miles Road.
Yep.
So that'd be consistent with this too.
Which is part of the plan of facilitating these zones.
So, so along those lines, the first one specifically related to that would be a motion to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 194.25C1 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirement to improve adjacent existing streets conditioned upon notation being added to the approved plan documenting the deferral to the satisfaction of the township.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be, I'll go in the order, we'll get to back to the curb and sidewalk down at the bottom. The next one on the engineer's report is related to site lighting, actually the next two, and the applicant is requesting the ability to utilize limited site lighting on the building itself.
Right, yeah.
Wall mounted
Yeah.
fixtures. In any case, they meet the full cutoff, no glare standard. It's just, they're not looking to have individual lighting poles within the maneuvering area. Based on the configuration and the location, we have no concerns there. There are certain standards in the zoning ordinance that we apply to, and we can work through those as we proceed. The goal here was just to clarify, give them the flexibility to use wall-mounted lighting instead of more formal lighting in parking and maneuvering areas. So the motion would be approval waiver modification of the requirements of section 194.30M, the subdivision land development ordinance related to site lighting of vehicle parking areas to authorize the use of limited building-mounted lighting in the vicinity of the parking area to the satisfaction of the township.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Same would be virtually identical, but applicable to the off-street loading area. The motion would be approval waiver modification of requirements of section 194.31H of the subdivision land development ordinance related to site lighting of off-street loading areas to authorize the use of limited building mounted lighting in the vicinity of off-street loading area to the satisfaction of the township.
I'll make that motion.
No second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next one pertains to oversized parking space. The typical requirement would be 70-foot long pull-through. Maybe Dave wants to highlight where they're showing a moderately sized loading area and how it works for the facility.
Yeah, we have a 40-foot wide, a 40-foot long stall shown here. We have back in space that would basically do a maneuver in there. He uses box trucks, he doesn't have some, tractor trailers coming in. It's just, you understand the scale of the site and the scale of the operation.
So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 19430R1 and section 19430R4 of subdivision land development ordinance related to oversized parking spaces. To authorize the applicant to provide a back-end style space with a length of 40 feet and lieu of a 7-foot tall full-floor space.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And then back to the deferrals along the frontage. The next would be a motion to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 19432A of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirements for sidewalks along the public street, conditioned upon appropriate notation being placed on the approved plan document deferral to the satisfaction of the township.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And then the final one would be a motion to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 19433A of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirement for concrete curb along the public street, conditioned upon appropriate notation being placed on the approved plan document deferral to the satisfaction of the township.
This is going to be an ongoing trend more and more as we eliminate more and more curves going on in the township. For some other reasons.
That's what I was thinking. I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. That's it, we're gonna start design and we'll be back in a while and, take some steps.
Maybe one thing to highlight there on the access, it is a shared access arrangement, and the project, in light of these waiver modifications, would have an improved radius to access the drive more efficiently and an expanded width. Scott and Dave and I will have discussions relative to the exact width of that. I think it's currently shown at 24.
Yeah, we have shown 24, which would have required, and he thought that was appropriate for his,
Yep.
operation, but if you're willing to consider lower or less wide driveway, we'll look at that
And they are
and minimize
aware
as much as we can.
they need to provide a shared access easement agreement to.
Yeah, he seemed to think, he learned from the neighbor that the neighbor seemed to think there was an agreement, but we can't find it. And either way, it's gonna require some improvements to the driveway, so we're gonna nail that down and tighten that up a little bit and make sure it's official.
We'll be also signing a supervisor to this plan too.
Okay, great, John, we'll be glad to do that.
And it's always this continuation of our discussions with developers about reducing roadway and driveway widths wherever possible. Helping them, and it helps us for stormwater, helps them for cost.
All right, appreciate your time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Going on to the next items, Heatherwoods Phase 3, we have two motions there. Phase 3 is the prior, most recent final plan that was approved, and is the construction and the dwellings that you see being built now. As you can see, they're making substantial progress. The majority of the roadway infrastructure and stormwater infrastructure is in place, so they are asking for a security reduction. So the motion would be to authorize a $1,302,370.85 reduction to the current financial security being held by the township for the Phase 3 final plan for Heatherwoods, resulting in remaining financial security being reduced to $746,182.15.
There's nobody here for that plan. No. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next item is kind of related to both Phase 3 and Phase 4 and 5. Phase 3 final plan was recorded, and it involved some swapping, the term swapping or annexation of small portions of property between the developer and the township. Each party was obtaining the same square footage, no net increase or reduction for either property owned by the developer or the township. Those were shown on that plan, so the next step after the plan is recorded then is to proceed with completing those transfers. They did not directly involve any of the lots in Phase 3. They do involve certain lots in Phase 4 and 5, and the applicant has submitted Phase 4 and 5, which is currently under review. So prior to allowing that plan to proceed more formally for approval and recording, we need to make sure these deeds are ultimately transferred, these transfers are completed and reflected on the phase 4 and 5 plan. So Tom Goodman had issued correspondence with the township suggesting that you make a motion relative to authorizing those signatures of those deeds. The documents have not all been provided to date. Heatherwoods LLC is securing certain, waiver of liens and mortgages to clarify title aspects. So the motion would be to authorize signature of the deeds associated with the land transfers involving the township as identified on the prior recorded phase 3 final plan. When the signed deeds and associated legal documents are provided to the township and deemed satisfactory to the township solicitor.
Make that motion for a second.
I'll second
We have 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And then the final item would be Twin Pine financial security reduction, as-built plans. The project has essentially been completed. There are some minor items relative to stabilizing certain areas which obviously can't be completed this time of year. So our recommendation is that we release the majority of the security and retain $2,000 to ensure proper tidying up of a few areas to the satisfaction of the township. So the motion would be to authorize a $405,903.10 reduction in the current financial security being held by the township for the stormwater management plan for Twin Pine Audit Group paving improvements, resulting in the remaining financial security being reduced to $2,000.
I'll make that motion.
No second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Question, Mr. Fry. What's the status on that drill well on that property?
As far as the well is concerned, the last documented information that we had was that it was installed, but was never put into use. It's currently capped, not permanently. That's where we stand. That's on the agenda, well, my agenda, personal agenda, in the zoning department to speak with Mr. Zimmerman about that at a future date.
Is that more a authority question than it is yours, or?
The authority is involved in that also, yes.
So it's still open, oh yeah.
Correct.
But it's basically an authority issue.
Yes.
Thanks, Brad. Consider approval of advertisement of 219 road projects.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is just an advertisement for the standard road bid paving package. The package itself has not been prepared yet. It will be prepared next week. We will be doing the projects that were budgeted in our 2019 budget, the chip seal, the paving of Clear Hollow, as well as some maintenance streams that are being proposed. I'm just asking for the motion to be to approve the advertisement for the 2019 road projects once the standard bid documents have been prepared.
Okay. What's the wish of the board?
Go ahead and do it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. PA 1 call, 811 proclamation.
This is a document that's sent out each year by PA 1 call. This is an acknowledgement that there is a PA 1 call system, and it's an effort by PA 1 call system just to elevate it around the whole state so that people know that when they're going to be digging more than 18 inches, it's usually good. It's not usually good. You should.
You should, yes.
Make a phone call to PA 1 call so that you know hit your neighbor's electrical line or some other thing that you do not intend to have happen.
Yeah, it's the continuing marketing
Yep.
and education.
Marketing education. Do we have that on our website?
We will put it on the website. So the motion is to approve the PA 1 call proclamation designating April as Pennsylvania 811 safe digging month.
Okay. Have a question?
Question in regards to one call. Who actually is tasked with enforcing one call? Does the township have somebody that goes around and enforces that, or is that tasked with the zoning officer? Or does that go with the PUC?
That, you gotta explain a little bit more what you're asking there.
Well, who would enforce it?
Enforcing
Like
case.
the one call thing. For an example, there's a project at a local property that someone came and said, we need to stop doing what we were doing. And I'm just wondering, like, who within the, is somebody in the township authorized to go and essentially like be an enforcement agency for one call? Or is that up to the PUC, or how does that work?
If we're aware, we can certainly exercise that thing, but also most of the time, we're not gonna be aware. That becomes between the utility company that didn't get the PA1 call notice and the property that's digging at that point. We will never really know when someone's not doing a PA1 call because we're not aware they're digging.
Right.
Yeah,
And then anyway, it really does become an issue is they dig and they actually hit something. And so where it gets enforced is when the lawyers from that utility company go over that, after that property owner, because he did not get a proper PA1 call and he impacted that utility.
yeah, I was just wondering, like, if there's a formal enforcing, process for it, or if it's just, if something happens, then.
There's no way we would know that. I mean, if we become aware, we would do something, but most of the time, we're never aware, and especially if it's a single house or a single business, we would even know they're doing it.
If I may to add to Scott's comment, Chance, with every building permit for any excavation in the township that comes through my office, it's one of my conditions on the condition letter to specify they need to contact PA1 call. Now, because I'm involved in that process, I do site visits and whatnot, and I actually look for the PA1 call flags. So too, as far as your question is enforcing it, I have stopped jobs because of that issue. There were no PA1 call flags on site. It's an unsafe situation. They can't break ground until that's accomplished. And I get a copy of every PA1 call in my township to my computer. A lot of times, I get a PA1 call contact sheet, and I make a phone call to the contractor and to the property owner. I don't have a permit application. You can't dig without a permit application. And they wonder, how did I know? Well, it's because of the PA1 call system. It's working and doing its job. So to answer your question, yes, the township, my office, would have some degree of responsibility to enforce it and make sure there's a safe situation going on.
And that's for those people who do it above board and legally.
Yeah, correct.
You get the backyard mechanics, you're not gonna stop them.
Yeah, I think,
Right.
Tony, I think you know what I was referring to.
Sure.
So I just was wondering, like, who actually is tasked with that, and who's,
I, being in this position over a number of years, I have a very good relationship, I think, with the community, and I get a lot of phone calls about activity in this town. And that's usually how I stumble upon these things, because I can't be everywhere at once. But yes, I think we have a pretty good handle on it. Does that help?
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second, don't we?
Yes, you do.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. No old business?
Oh, boy.
No, we'll see there.
Okay. New business, proposed zoning ordinance text amendment. Members first to forward the East Cocalico Planning Commission and Lancaster County Planning Commission to review action request.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the motion, I would ask that you actually adopt this, even though it's a new business, is to approve sending the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment for members first to East Cocalico Township Planning Commission and Lancaster County Planning Commission for comment and review back to the township.
I have a couple of questions. I guess my first question is under section 1, why did they cross out these specific intersections? But do we know?
Well, I think that's what we need to do, to be honest with you, what the planning commission review is at this point.
And the second, I had 3 questions, and the second question would be under page 2, under brightness. Does the language that's proposed weaken language that we already have? We already have a zoning ordinance that has the brightness of a sign can only be such and such.
It also has language that dictates the scrolling messages and all that.
Right,
Yeah.
the timing between same, et cetera.
kind of put it in a nutshell, they did not change most of what was in the zoning. All they did was put in there the ability to be offset 500 feet from an intersection.
Okay.
So
Well, I
that,
mean,
basically what this was just a cleaning up to make it support.
I didn't get a chance to check our zoning ordinance against this, and that was my concern. We worked real hard to get that under control, and I just wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna weaken it.
Yeah, so if you go to page 3, the minimum displaced design cycles, I believe that's not changed at all at this point.
Okay, that was the third question. Okay.
But that's what the planning commissions will be, the 2 planning commissions will review, and they'll be looking at the old zoning ordinance and the new zoning ordinance, plus it has to get reviewed by our engineer too.
Okay.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion.
Not hearing that, I make a motion, we forward this to the appropriate people for their review and comment.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Adopt and execute the 2019 intermunicipal agreement and prepare and enable the ordinance for an adoption of the agreement by the others listed.
I have this as a possible motion for you to consider. Again, it's new business, but you've already approved this document. The changes were very, very minor with West Cocalico Township on severability and a couple of things where it was just wordsmithing. It has been reviewed by Tom Goodman as well as all of the other solicitors and all the other municipalities, and it seems like everybody's in agreement at this point. So the possible motion to consider is adopt and execute the 2019 intermunicipal agreement and to prepare enabling ordinance upon adoption of the agreement by the listed parties. So what that means is with that motion, you're not actually signing this agreement yet, because then there's not going to be a form that goes around all 4 municipalities to execute the agreement, but it would start the process of me making the other municipalities that were on board at this point, and for us to start having Tom Goodman actually put the ordinance together to allow you to sign that agreement.
Okay, so it's for the board.
I'd like to make a motion we adopt that agreement.
I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions?
Those changes were
Minimal. Yeah, they
It
were.
was just wording. It didn't change the spirit of the document.
No. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. I have a letter to read here. To whom it may concern, this letter is to inform you that I'll be resigning from my road crew position from East Cocalico Township. My last day will be Friday, February 15, 2019. I would like to take the time to thank you for the opportunity of employment with East Cocalico Township for the past 4 years. I've learned a lot during my time here. If there's anything I can do during my 2 weeks to make the transition easier, please let me know. Sincerely, John Hank.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to talk about this a little bit more, but before you do this, I actually would like you to make a motion to accept the resignation of John Hank with regrets.
I would make that motion.
I'll second that motion with regrets. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
So with that, since this is a manager hire position, not a appointed position, I will be advertising early next week for a position, and I will look to try and fill it before our next meeting. We're in the middle of the snow season right now. We have reached out to Denver Borough. We've got their list at this point, and that's where Ms. Rank is going at this point. So we have the list of other individuals that they had interviewed. We got their top 4 to also reach out and get in contact with to do that. There is also, and I'm passing this out to you because all this happened yesterday, this was something I became aware of that the board had considered in 2016. After talking with Mr. Reaver at the authority, it was an MOU to allow authority employees who are also CDL to plow township streets. They would be employees of the township, just like any other on-call employee. Any stipulation that they would like is that should a water main break occur, which sometimes on a rare occasion, cold snap, we're going to have snow activities and something goes bad at that time, then those employees would have to do their first call, which is they work for the authority. So it's just a document, it's a draft. I had the document of what was there before, I just crossed out. I'm not asking for action today on this at all, I'm just throwing this one up here before the board as one of the many things that we can look at for making sure we're meeting our plowing needs at this point, in particular for the next couple months ahead. That does not mean we're going to get authority employees. They've got to voluntarily agree to work for the township. But if there's just a general idea that it'd be good for us to have a couple authority employees as on-call employees, Mr. Reed is willing to talk to his staff and to see if they are interested in actually working directly for the township.
I forget what the hiccup was last time.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
What Mr. Reaver told me was our need was filled with the staff, and basically the township went back, because they had already agreed, the authority had already adopted on their end, and then the township came back to them and said, we appreciate the help, but we've actually filled a vacant position. At that point, we didn't need the MOU.
Insurance-wise,
It has no impact on township employees.
there are township employees.
The only thing you're agreeing is that in the event of a snowstorm and there's a water main break, they get first due. That's really the whole gist of the whole agreement.
It's their priority.
Yeah.
Everything else is their township
In other
employees.
words, what do we need to do at this meeting to facilitate this?
I just need to know if you're okay with that, if that were presented as an option. They're gonna talk to their employees either tomorrow or Monday, and we'll get back to us whether they're even willing to help us out.
Scott, let me say this, is the first time I've seen this MOU, give me 24 hours. And I promise to get you an answer by noon tomorrow.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah. No problem with it. No problem with it.
Ain't gonna snow the next year.
That's with the rain. Yeah.
So it's just another tool in the toolbox at this point.
I think we had enough employees back then.
No, I mean, what happened was that,
Well, so we'll be advertising immediately. Now I'd like to talk about something else. On Tuesday evening, February 5th, it came to my attention that a conversation was overheard claiming that John Nick's departure was caused by friction that existed with the road crew and the road crew staff with the road crew master, Chris Floyd. I'd like to go on the record stating that that is a false claim at this point, and get that firmly established that I am 100% as the manager discounting that claim. I've been very much in touch with the road crew. I know the issues why John Inc. is leaving, and it has nothing to do with Chris Floyd. Chris Floyd's actions or the job that Chris Floyd does with that department. I also have a statement that the road crew voluntarily offered, and this is unsolicited by me. And I'm going to read it. To the people of East Cocalico Township, this letter is to inform the public that the loss of one of the road crew had nothing to do with the co-workers or management. The decision of John leaving was strictly on bettering himself and his future. The road crew is a good group of guys. Where one guy has a weakness, the other guy has a strength. There is a good mix of experience and knowledge here. The work environment here has never been hostile. It's laid back. We're given a job. We each are given a part. We all do our part to work together to finish the job, to make the township a better place. Signed, John, Dan, and Troy. So unequivocally, I want to get on the public record what the rumor is, and I want to publicly call it out as false at this point.
These are always tough. John's been a good worker. John, I appreciate everything he's done for this township. There's a lot of rumors flying around out there right now. I call it fake news. And I'd be careful of what you listen to. There's some people out there spreading all kind of crap, plain English. And it is crap. Dragging this township down for their own betterment. And it really annoys me. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure it stops. We lost a good man because of it, partially. I could go on, and it's probably not the right place to be when I get off my soapbox, so I'm gonna quit. But I'm not a happy camper right now. And Chris, you're doing a hell of a job. I know that.
I think we all are.
I know that. I know you guys all are, and I appreciate everything every one of you guys does for this township. Irregardless of what is out there in the rumor mill and what is spread around at the diners, just ignore it. We got your back.
We appreciate the work you've done.
I have a more strategic question, and I don't know because they're your responsibility and report to you. But I'm gonna ask Chris and his team this question. What I'm more concerned about right now is we lost somebody extremely valuable at a critical time in the weather patterns. So what's the morale like? And why? If I may skirt you, Scott, and ask that.
Our morale's good. I think we just want the rumors to stop.
I think we all
Are those
like it.
internal or external rumors?
We know what we're talking about.
I think the external rumors is what he's getting at. To which, like Doug said, it's always gonna be there.
It's always gonna be there, but it's so resonating right now. It's ridiculous.
That's
I've
why
been in
it's-
this business 23 years, and I've never heard anything like this in the last 23 years. Never. It stinks.
Well, it's one thing for it to be a rumor, and it's another thing for it to start tactically affecting the operationals or the operational requirements of the municipality. That's my concern right now.
When I received John's letter, I did a lot of scrambling and I talked to Scott. Basically, our on-call subs would be willing to take on more work. One of them suggested having a multiple-year contract. Knowing he would have multiple years here helping the township, he would go buy more equipment. Be a plus to the township. Also, Scott came across that agreement from 2016 with the water authority, if they're willing to still help. I mean, the main goal is to get the roads open as fast as possible.
But that doesn't address my concern. The concern I'm asking about is what's the catalyst, what's the root cause that even got us to this? What you're talking about is a solution. I'm saying let's take 4 steps back, and we need to understand what the catalyst and the root cause is. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for saying that, but if the catalyst and the root cause continues, it doesn't matter how many Band-Aids you put in place.
Yeah, you don't solve the problem.
I think I said my piece on my roadmaster at this point.
Thank you.
I don't like this kind of rumors.
They're detriment to the township. That's the problem. They're rumors. They're half-founded, they're untruth, half-truths. And the people that are spreading them don't have enough guts to tell the real story. The whole truth all the time.
Quite frankly, I'm going to say this out loud also, the amount of energy and bandwidth that this takes up is totally unproductive,
Yeah, it affects the whole township.
completely unproductive.
This directly affects every citizen in East Cocalico Township.
This board spends a lot of time and effort in trying to plot a direction for the township. And yeah, we're human. We're human. We don't do everything right all the time. There's a lot of expertise sitting up here, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying it how it is. We've been through the wars, some of us longer than others, and that kind of negativity does nothing to further the township. Not at all. promises can't be kept. Promises are made that can't be kept. You know, like I said, I could go on and you'd have to pull me off the ceiling literally, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating that individuals can paint this place the way they are.
Next item, MS4 update.
Couple conflicting messages that came up, so let me give the good news first. We have our MS4 technician who was given a conditional offer of employment, Mr. Ken McCray, who's sitting in the audience. Ken brings so much experience to the game at this point with his doctorate in biology that quite frankly he's overqualified for the position, and will be a great asset helping us up with MS4. It is a conditional offer of employment. We have a couple things to get through and wrapped up, but then he will start on Monday.
Just for clarification, should it be Dr. McCray or can we still call you Ken?
You can just
Okay. Want to be respectful.
Here comes the document.
Just
sign the formal letters the other way.
Yeah, so we didn't scare away with the interview process. It was a very technical interview. We had Michael Sal, myself, Tony, and Brent Lee there. And it was not a get to know because obviously we knew who the candidate was and we knew his qualifications, so it quickly evolved into a discussion about what it is going to be the MS4 program going forward and what is going to be Ken's role because he will be running point on MS4 going forward, and we didn't scare him away. That was the question I asked him at the end of the interview. Was he still interested after we went through all the things that were going to occur, including enforcement actions? And we're really excited to have Ken come on board. He's going to bring some fresh ideas. He already emailed me some grant ideas for us to consider, which will then go into my next discussion item. But I'm really excited to have him on board and what he's going to bring to the township. This is a part-time role, and everything that occurred is within budget at this point.
Okay, so just for clarification for the public, so tactical items, right? Ken comes on board on Monday,
That's correct.
okay? And then just for us internally, in terms of moving the office spaces and logistics, where are we?
Administratively, when we get done this meeting, I need to talk with the three of you just to go over the logistics of moving the two offices around. But the supervisor's office will become the zoning office, and the zoning office, which is a lot smaller, will become the supervisor's office. And there's going to have to be some coordination with the road crew, with custom computers, a whole bunch of people over the next week to make the move happen. So Ken will come on board while the move is still in progress.
Okay.
We're also in the process of getting his computer. We've reset the custom computer. Again, it was a budgeted line item with the ordering the computers, so they're in the process of picking it up. With a little hindsight, I was planning on ordering a desktop, but we're going to order a laptop for Ken because he will be going out to the field a lot, and a laptop gives a lot more versatility. It doesn't really change the price much, but it a little less performance, but a lot more flexibility with what he's going to need to do. We are also going to have to work with Farlow to just move the phones around at this point. And there's going to be, more than likely, custom computers going to have to run a couple lines up through the attic to establish the new lines, because Tony and I were back there yesterday, and there's only one Ethernet port in the supervisor's office, so we're going to have to fix that with custom computers too. So there's going to be some expense with running cable. On the Farlow side, we're also trying to verify the cable too for their phones, because there's only one cable line in there too.
Okay, and then one final item, just for complete clarity here. Reporting structure for the MS4 technician is exactly how?
Reporting, the MS4 technician ultimately answers to the township manager, who will work day to day with his own office. So technically,
It's a parallel item to zoning.
he's an employee of mine, but he will be working next with Tony the whole time. And that's driven along the lines too that, quite frankly, I need to hold the MS4 technician accountable because I'm the one that has to sign the MS4 report, annual report. And it's my professional career, or however else you want to look at it, but I saw that there's a lot of